Great. And why don't we proceed with the virtual tour then and Snow's commentary? Experiencing the virtual exhibition via recorded video is not at all the same as participating in it yourself. Nothing really replaces the experience of experiencing it yourself. So please do check out the exhibition tomorrow.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Victoria. So the first piece that we're looking at is actually the piece called Planet Dome. This is a particle simulation piece. A lot of my artwork, as you will see, are really also in the examination of the current 3D imaging tool, but with the reflection of the sublime, more specifically the techno sublime. And in here, I actually have used the 2D images of stars and galaxies, which is then available on NASA. And I use them as data points to then simulate the actual 3D particles. But I have intentionally placed the virtual camera to be on the side, right? So you are not able to see the flat image that is laying on the grid, but what you can see is the particle, the millions and millions of particles that gets to be generated, simulated according to those images. By the way, the images are also replacing each other every so often. That's why there is more particles being generated, referring kind of back to the tons of stars, right, that our universe have. So that is the Planet Dome, and another piece associating with that is this next piece you're looking at called Basque. Basque is in the same series. So again, sort of reflecting, but this time, this idea of the sun, right? We know that sun as a planet is so crucial for us, Earth or Earth links to existence on a daily basis. But the sun is also such an entity where people, if we get too close, will just simply vanish. So the way for us to really kind of get close to them or, have a way to examine is actually a lot of times through images. And so similarly here, I took the sun NASA images and video, which actually, by the way, is also simulated and made by artists and designers. And so I reversed engineer, and here the particle stands for the rays, right, that the sun is constantly generating it to us. And in the beginning, you saw a little bit that kind of how much data that took to actually make those video. So, while we're immersed into the particle, it sort of leads back to that. The next piece is actually a little GIF piece where you see a figure sort of walking with her head amongst the cloud. And this piece was actually featured in the New York Times in May 2020. And the piece was really kind of, in a sense, about reflecting to this idea of where we're going, right? Where we're going kind of on an individual level, but also where we're going, especially when a global pandemic hit so hard, we kind of reflect. And also, I think it's a meditation about the digital space, right? That sometimes it's so foggy, so kind of hard to see things clearly. So, this marching figure, in a sense, is, looking super determined, but at the same time, also a bit sense of lost. So it was really honored to see this artwork actually got written about in the New York Times in the company of actually a really big scale gift new media art exhibition at that time. And relating to this piece too, I think digital artists has really kind of been experiencing almost the renaissance, right? A silver lining, right, of, in a sense, that our work now is experienced on internet, and people don't just think of it as a novelty. People actually take it seriously as a space to experience. So this next piece that we're looking at is from the work called Side. This is an earlier piece of mine where it's depicting a female body here, really kind of relating to the idea of figurative painting. Those who maybe know a little bit about me know that I, before coming into digital art, came from a painting, photography, and sculpture background. So really looking at sort of, connecting to the digital image making. And this figure is actually being made and also disintegrated by liquid, right? Liquid simulation in 3D, while experiencing this sort of flashes and this kind of continuous movement, right, as a reflection is actually also made upon many frames. So I think, even 30 frames per second, as we see, only kind of grasps a little bit of sort of a longer movement, which I think really reflects kind of to the idea that a lot of continuity or a lot of perception that we have sometimes is more or less with the illusion. And then now we're moving on to the next one, which also associating with the piece Side, but this time a dual figure. So, here we have a figure on the right and a figure on the left, where the water is in a sense kind of forming, but also abstracting it. I like to kind of examine this notion that a lot of time we think abstraction is sort of going against what's figurative, right, in the painting practice or in the photography portrait practice, but really when we think about the materiality of human body, we're made so largely by water, right, which is so sort of such an essential element, again, another natural element within our world, and how much of that sort of we daily intake, but also go out. But I think it also pointing to another realm, right, that the physical world that we experience every day, I think it's only maybe the surface layer of many other spaces and realms, digital spaces being one, or maybe it is the different scale of spaces, maybe the microscopic. So that's this next speak is also from the same series called Conjuring. So kind of continuing with this idea of the different scale and the different spaces, but here in a multiple, right, figure, so that we're really sort of starting to experience this event, right? That's not just single figure, it's actually multiple figure, and it's sort of also existing in a dance formation, right? A little bit technical about the piece. I started with the digital figure and rig and animated them with dance movements, and then they then be used as targets for the fluid simulation, and that is the kind of end results of the project in a way. And so the piece, I think a lot of time is reflecting to, again, this way that we relate to the larger world physically, but also to each other, right? That our existence, our connection, even our understanding of ourselves are so intertwined with the people around us, with sort of the world, the larger kind of reflection of ourselves. So all of the pieces that we're seeing here, I think conceptually connects to the larger environment, right, which is submerged. And now we're going into the other side, already finished half of the tour pretty fast. And the first piece that you saw, you're seeing right now is called Avalanche, one of the, again, another recent piece I've made this year. Avalanche started with 3D scanning, and then I utilized the snow simulation in a sense to create this abstracted moving painting, and like the sun, right? Avalanche is also something that one don't really want to experience up close because it has such a destructive quality. But I wanted to sort of present that, right, in 3D so that people can be experiencing its beauty, right? But also maybe reflecting on its devastating quality and maybe the kind of limit of our own bodies, right? That, any of those natural events, make our life look so fragile. But, therefore sort of this preciousness of life, but also kind of reflecting back to the power that's maybe embedded already within the world. And like Avalanche, all of the other pieces that you will see in this side sort of relating to kind of this idea of looking at a larger natural event, right? Or natural event in the sense of how we relate to it as human being. So traveling a little bit, the next one we are looking at is from my VR series called Trench. So now we're going under the ocean, bottom of the ocean a bit, where we're started to seeing a lot of coral reef, but unfortunately they're not your super colorful coral reef, right? That's full of animal, full of algae, and but they're actually in a state of bleach until the player actually gets to go and activate. So what you're seeing here is a screen recording of the play, and this kind of idea that so many coral scientists are finding ways to bring our coral reef back, and the bleach state is when they're losing a lot of the animals and plants and algae. That's why they lose the color. So sometimes it's by the pH of the water, sometimes it's by other pollution. So ways to really it is us, right, in a sense, kind of our activity that causes unfortunate environmental change like this. But I think it is also our ability, responsibility in a sort of human scale to try to bring them back, right? While it's hopefully still not too late. And then now we travel to another series of my work from the Karst VR project. And the first part that you are seeing here is the depicting of a cave, which is from the southwest part of China, where I originally from. And because of the type of geography called karst, that beautiful rock gets formed because of thousands of years of salt and calcium formation. And they're also really lit up by this, because otherwise they're completely black. It was such an important moment for me as a person. When I first went into one of the cave, I was 5 years old. I was scared out of death, right? And looking back, especially studying our history, I had the experience of the sublime then, right? This idea that I think I trying to physically understand what is my mortality and also my scale in terms of both size and also time, that this cave came so much longer before, and also any rock that falls can kill me, right? So I had a visceral sort of experience as a little kid, and when I was able to sort of harness the power of 3D and virtual space and VR, I immediately wanted to recreate that experiences, right? So that other people can also come into the cave and experience it as I do, and with sort of large scale. And another sort of element of this is that a karst cave like this in China are being used to house a lot of hardware data. So the actual sort of physical part of the cave is not really many accessible anymore. So in a sense, I think it's even more meaningful for me to make artwork where there's still a layer of accessibility for the cave. And now onto the next screen, which this is actually located pretty much right across from earlier when we saw the other part of Trench, right? So Trench have two sides, and this side, it's a reverse experience in the other one. So starting out, you see the colorful, right, coral reef, and the bubble, and then the fish that kind of comes around it. And as you go deeper and deeper into this trench space, you start noticing that not all objects, right, look like marine object. You see some jellyfish floating up there too. But then you start maybe finding a toilet seat, finding a tire, right? And more and more, you're seeing kind of the ocean trash, right? That then I have used a lot of glitch texture to map on it, kind of making almost a statement in a sense that the fact that, you know, when we make a landscape painting nowadays, right? Although I'm here using digital means to do that, you know, it's not just the sort of beautiful object that we expect naturally, but there is also the object, right, from our everyday life. There's a chair floating there, and there's in a sense kind of like a glitch, right, in the larger world. So that does, I think, concludes all of the piece in the show, and yeah, and as you can see, the space is connected, so that as a visitor, you can always visit any of the artwork or any side of the space anytime you want. So, you know, when the artwork is getting released, I really hope that people will have a good experience intimately with this project. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. No, this was great. It was great to learn more about the exhibition, and it looks amazing for lack of a better word, and seems to, it's this amazing sort of interplay between your personal experiences, huge narratives of global warming and sort of man's relationship with nature and place and environment, and sort of my first question, I guess, as a part of our mini interview in this exhibition opening, would be how to best approach interpreting and thinking about this exhibition, because it is sort of filled with content, with thick and sort of deep content. So for a viewer who is not necessarily acquainted with your oeuvre, what would you recommend? How would you recommend to approach thinking about the exhibition?
Totally. Thank you for that question, Greg. When creating this piece and relating to my other piece too, I really see the value of kind of this idea of a liminal space, which I think metaverse like this really, you know, helps us to think about, right? And it is in a sense, like I said, referring back to our physical experience of the larger world. So, you know, reflecting hopefully, right, the beauty of the world that we find in, you know, every leaf, in every sunset, sunrise, right, or just in every small, large element of the physical world, because just kind of how much complex it is. When using 3D software, it is an epistemological model of the world. You know, there's so much sort of intelligence that the software maker have to put in there, right, to mimic kind of how our physical world works. And so there is, I think, this appreciation aspect that I hope that our visitor will get to experience, you know, that they will find the visual pleasing. But then, you know, like you said, there's so many sort of other layer. I think the, you know, the experience of kind of finding oneself amongst the forest fire, or the experience of kind of walking, right, alongside of a galaxy to view all of the different artwork, I hope does kind of provide a moment for us to you know, be quiet and then, you know, reflect. So hopefully everybody will have, you know, your own different experience, but you know, positive experience.
Definitely. And just to pick it right back off of that, since sort of the exhibition is visually so condensed, and since it is in a virtual format, which some of our audience may not be particularly familiar with, I expect there is a slight possibility that upon entering the space, one may get overwhelmed with the sort of variety of the visual input that is in front. And so as someone who is experienced with new media and sort of, well, yes, commands perfect knowledge of this world, is there any recommendation that you can make to our visitor about how best to approach experiencing exhibition in a virtual format, and sort of maybe the length of time one needs to spend there, or something along these lines?
Yeah. So I think, have fun is probably the first note I will have for people. This is more of kind of interaction that maybe we're familiar with a game, right? That when we think of the normal ways of showing art, we think of maybe going to galleries and museums or public places. So over the years, there's definitely been, I think, more artwork being accessible this way, and also in such an intimate way, right? So there is no map for you in a sense, right? The space is open, although we have kind of row suggestions, but it is also really just kind of like a park, right? Kind of like an island. One can kind of travel to there on their own and take your own pace, right? Most of the visual moving artwork are they loop, right? So you can stay and watch them as long as you like, or you can kind of take breaks. If you kind of want to wander around the space and then, right, kind of go move around into the different artwork. I think that's good idea too. Or maybe you feel overwhelming, right? I know there's so much going on as a visual element, and you can kind of come here for a little bit and then maybe come here again the next day. The good thing about also this way of displaying artwork is that you can access the space whenever, right? The fact that I think even the global team at V-Art, some of you are in Europe, some of you are in, different places of the world. I know some people were traveling this summer, and I'm here in the US. That I think reflects, right, even during the making of the artwork, but also the experiencing. There is no time limit, right? Anybody can go in anytime, and they're not also going to be crowded. That's another thing, right? That we don't have to kind of worry about, sort of the idea of being too many people in there. So come back. This show will be up on the app for a few months, and interact with it, and maybe second time around you will experience something differently. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Snow. And just to talk a little bit more about this fascinating format of a virtual exhibition. In some sense, I think that it a little bit really resembles installation art, right? So the it's a total experience. It surrounds you, particularly with the augmented reality function. It sort of invades your private space, if you like, in an exciting manner. And obviously it affords a great variety of possibilities to you in order to bring your ideas to life, as opposed to a physical space, let's say, which is limited by physics, if not anything else. So can you speak a little bit more about why you are interested in a digital format and why you started working in it, and what it provides to you as an artist?
That's a very good question. So I came from a little background about me, since we're talking about my entry point, right, to this medium. So I was born in an art educator's family. Both my parents' side generation and my grandparents' generation, they're just full of artists, painters, sculptors, Chinese landscape, right, painters. My grandfather, his work was collected in the National Museum of China, and my mother was also a very prominent painter. and woodwork printmaker. And so, I grew up in that. My grandmother was an illustrator for newspapers and children's storybook, and so on. So I grew up in that, and was very immersed in painting medium, sculpture medium, photography medium, and so when I sort of continued with it in my undergraduate study, I took actually a little detour there. I was science major for a while, which actually really also, I think, prepped me to kind of come into the technological field relating to art and physics and math and all that. But when I kind of wanted to really come back and pursue being an artist in my higher education, I find mediums like painting, no matter where I go, which corner I turn, my professor back then always tells me, oh, like 1,000 people already done something like that, and it probably did really well and better than you will ever do. I got really frustrated, and looking back, I think it was a problematic thing that some of the people were saying that to me. Even as a young painter, if you want to do something and somebody else already did, do it anyway. It's going to be your version, and I think partially has to do with the way that we categorize art history, but that's for another day. But so that kind of prompted me back then to go into exploring what might be fields where there is still this kind of experimental spirit, right? There is still this kind of idea of things can be just explored. It's not so categorized. It's not so kind of all put in boxes, and that's when I landed into 3D imaging, into new media art. I first actually start taking a class at School of Art in Chicago in 3D by Professor Claudia Hart, and then that really changed my world, and that's 10 plus years ago, and since then sort of I just went in full speed into this medium because it just offers me so much. I think the medium itself, the tool set itself is still being, innovated, still being pushed every year. So, on that front, I think it's exciting. Though there is, I think, also this force of, mainstreamized or categorizing, right? Kind of recent year, you see a lot of ways that 3D are made, I think only for the gore or the horror genre, which I have nothing against those genre, but I don't think that's the only narrative with this technology. So as artists, myself or other fellow artists in this community, right? I think this kind of idea of diversity to push this tool to make, different kind of artwork. There's so much potential to it. And this kind of idea of also relating back to so many classical medium, right? Painting, photography, sculpture, film, animation, it's all in it. And even ceramic, right? I had a multidisciplinary student, and this also, so that actually leads to why I'm so excited to teach my student is that, they always bring new blood, new inventions into this medium, and they make their own work. So I think only by doing that, right? And only, for myself on a personal level, only by kind of continue pushing this medium, we can really make the kind of work that is unique, right? But not only unique, not only kind of in the sense of novelty, but art at the core is always about what is human experience, right? What is kind of the way we understand ourselves, what is kind of the larger sense of meaning. So, and I think this medium has that great potential, right, for us to then reflect upon those core experiences.
Definitely. And I think an overarching theme here can be freedom, right? The digital medium, similarly to how it provided you new opportunities to express yourself and avoid maybe some hierarchical structures that previously would have hindered your progress in the traditional art world. So it provides the freedom for you to express yourself now with this fascinating Cavern-Us exhibition. And if I could just quickly take you back to Cavern-Us itself, I think it would be very interesting to quickly discuss the title. So Cavern-Us seems a little bit unusual. Could you maybe say a few words on why you chose to name the exhibition this?
Totally. So that's actually a really good follow-up question. I wanted to convey what I just said. Cavern-Us, the word sounds like another word, right? Which is this idea of a deep space, right? Of kind of this infinite, almost like dark space. But I think dark in the sense of full of possibility, right? That we are not going to be able to see clearly just from one glance, that's full of potential. So I think, this experiences that we're providing here, though on the island, but right, it's also kind of this infinite island when you think about with kind of the movement and also kind of the indication of the star. And this island can actually be really, really big, right, or really small, depends on how you think about. So this I wanted to give this title to reflect to that, but also like I said, I put the last two words kind of separated, right? I really wanted to reflect back to ourselves. So this idea of push and pull, right? It's also a cycle. This kind of idea that we, more on the scale of a little grain of sand on the seashore, right? In this kind of larger time, right, history of the world, or even of our planet, but kind of realizing that I think brings so much beauty, right, and help us to reflect maybe what's the more important things, even on a daily basis, and also kind of in contrast almost to the way that modern technology make us think, because I think with smartphones, with the internet, with the way that personal bubble gets to be made on social media, everybody kind of have this illusion that we're at the center of the world, right? That everything sort of spins around us. So I really wanted to push loose of that. When we kind of think of our kind of being in the world, that it's also more of a collective reflection, right? That we're all connected as little dots instead of sort of standalone island.
Yeah, definitely. These are fascinating themes and topics, actually very relevant to any sort of social discourse today. So it's very good to see how the exhibition brings together these grand themes and puts them into this fascinating little world that has been created for our visitors. So while I'm very conscious of time, I'd like to interrogate you for a little bit more with a final question on
Sure.
what it was like to develop this specific virtual exhibition, because I think that too often sort of people don't get a full appreciation of what it's like to develop virtual exhibitions, simply because the sort of expertise needed to do so is sometimes very inaccessible. So if you could say a few words on what that was like, that would be great as well.
For sure. So the two main thing in the exhibition, like I said, was already sort of finished the VR work, but because we wanted to bring it into the more accessible platform on VR, which I just commend you all for running this wonderful platform and having in-house technician. It was such a pleasure working with the technician, the team, and we've been on this journey for specifically 2 months, right, for building, and I think even more, right, from the conceiving of the idea to pushing this idea to become realized. And so during those 2 weeks, we had actually many meetings, right? Regular meetings where we're kind of like virtual architect in a way, right? That's another thing I really love about working in 3D is I can get to switch hats, and starting with kind of setting up the environment, even just the bare bone of modeling, and then to the idea of working with the technician on all of the details, right? The texture, the way it moves, and the light, the fog, right? Any visual element that sometimes we might not even think second of, right? That we might even take for granted, actually gets to be, intentionally made. Otherwise, they're not there. Or the sound, right? Of the it's a soundscape as well. Although today we couldn't really experience much because I was the one who's mainly talking about when you visit the space on your own, you will also be bombarded with all kinds of sound, both coming from the space, but also from the artwork, right? Kind of this symphony almost. So all of the element, the sky also is actually moving. So, and once, the artwork gets installed, it does become together into this one, I think, comprehensive project, right? That it is both a physical space that we established, but it is also an exhibition space, right? That one can go in and encounter themselves with more artwork.
Definitely. It seems like it's an intricate word that goes into the creation of a world, as one may expect. Thank you very much, Snow. It's been a pleasure to speak with you in this mini interview. And now, as our event nears its conclusion, I would just like to do a little bit of housekeeping and point out that the exhibition has been made available on the 15th of September. So please feel free to visit the exhibition yourself. As I previously pointed out, nothing compares to experiencing a virtual world on your own, in your own time. Furthermore, the recordings of openings will also be made available on the VR platform and social media. So please feel free to check that out, and the various articles and interviews as well that accompany this experience. So having said this, I would like to reiterate that it's been great to see you here today, and just say that my utmost congratulations to you, Snow, and anybody who has been involved in the creation of this exhibition for this amazing output that we've been able to create. I think it's an astounding success. And so that's really it from me, and have a lovely rest of the evening.
Thank you, VR team. You've been wonderful, and congratulations to you too for being a successful platform. And it's really my pleasure and honor to work with you. And thanks everybody who watching this right now or later. And thanks for the DSL collection for joining our conversation today too. Great. Well, look forward to hearing about your experience with the project.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.